All right. It is the start of June. I'm Tom Novak. This is your Adisseo and Novak weather 30-day outlook for the month of June. Now, of course, in this video, we will summarize what happened last month because that's important. It sets us up for then the next month ahead, which, of course, is now June. And we will then be looking ahead at the predictions now from Novak Weather, not only for temperature but also precipitation. And we'll be looking at closely at a drought index map. Right now, here is the precipitation over the United States over the last 30 days. And keep in mind, southern Canada, we don't have real good precipitation data for southern Canada, but we can extrapolate what has happened up there also. But long story short, it's been wet up over the northern sections of the United States, especially the upper Midwest and northern plains, and then on west into Wyoming. Then we have another cluster of heavy precipitation right across Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, especially in just the last couple of days. They've gotten quite a bit of rain down there. And it still is wet out over good sections of the eastern sections of the United States. So that's where it's been wet. Where it's been dry, and this is a big concern now, is Texas, especially central and southern Texas, on east into Louisiana. And we're getting a dry area here in the Corn Belt, right in the heart of the Corn Belt over Iowa, southern Wisconsin. So these areas are getting to the point where they desperately need rain. And for some of you, in fact, for many of you that are dry, I've got some bad news for you. A little bit of foreshadowing there for you. All right, here's the precipitation. When we drill into the central and northern sections of the United States and Mississippi River Valley, this is the departures from normal now for precipitation. And look at these blue areas are well above 3 to 4 inches plus of above normal precipitation for May. Okay, again, it shows you that heavy precipitation area in portions of Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and then the upper Midwest. Meanwhile, look at this dry air or dry weather over Louisiana and Texas. We need to work on that. Hopefully, we can do that here over the next 30 days, but it just doesn't look promising. We're going to look at some guidance maps now. This is the GFS computer model guidance. These are thicknesses or heights in the atmosphere. And one of the reasons why it's been so cold up in the northern sections of the United States is because look at all of these blue areas. These are contracting areas in the atmosphere, or heights that are lowering or shrinking. And whenever you get these blue areas over you, you usually get cold and inclement weather. And this is what we have today over much of the northern United States. You can see quite a few troughs or low pressure systems, upper level lows that are trekking across the northern sections of the United States. Now, as we move ahead, and we go into next week, it really doesn't change very much as we head into the June 9th period. Now, look at this. It's still going to be quite a few cold areas and inclement weather up in the northern sections of the United States. And it's not until we get to, probably mid-June, maybe late June, when we start to develop a ridge over a good portion of at least the western sections of the United States. So eventually we're going to get some warm air that's going to start to build over the western and central sections of the United States, and even into southern Canada, such as Alberta. But that may not be until the second half of June. Until then, I think it's going to be quite cold, or at least colder than average, in many sections of the northern United States, and then southern Canada, including Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta. All right, this is from the GFS computer model guidance. Again, these are the low-level temperatures now at about 3,000 to 5,000 feet. And it just kind of shows you the same thing here. Look at these blue areas. These are colder than normal temperatures just above the surface at about 3,000 to 5,000 feet. And look at this. This is as we head into this weekend and then now early next week. So this would be the second week now of June. Look at all the cold air that is just hanging around the northern sections of the United States. And even as we get into the weekend of the 11th and 12th of June, it's still cold over much of the upper Midwest, northern plains into the Great Lakes. And you can almost kind of see a front. This is an important front that I talk about in our summary, but there's a front that's going to be located right here, separating the cold air from the warm air. I'm going to rewind this for you, but look at the clash of air masses between the cold air over the northern sections of the United States and this intense area of heat over Texas and Louisiana. In between, you get a front. And this front, I think, is going to be the focal point for thunderstorms and showers over the next couple of weeks. And it's not until, like I had mentioned, it's not until we get into maybe the middle of June or maybe even into the latter half of June when we start to turn things around and we begin to develop a trough out west and then a ridge over the central and eastern portions of the United States. So eventually it's going to warm up over portions of the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region, but it's probably not going to be until the second half of June. And if you're down in Texas and Louisiana, New Mexico, good luck. It really, really looks hot down there for a good chunk of June. All right, here's a jet stream real quickly just to show you the River Vera at 30 to 35,000 feet, and you can kind of get the picture. These areas of strong winds are basically moving almost straight west to east across the United States here for the first couple weeks of June. And this is from the European computer model guidance now, and it's not until the middle of June when we start to develop. You can kind of see hints of a trough now starting to develop out west during the middle portions of June. And again, I think that's going to then build a ridge over the central and eastern United States for the second half of June. But until then, it is definitely going to be cold. And now I had mentioned, and I really think it's important that we mention this about that second half of June, because the first half of June, you can see it here, it's going to be cold over the northern sections of the United States through at least mid-June, the way it appears. This is from the European computer model guidance. But look at the turnaround that happens in the European computer model guidance as we head into late June and then early July. This is a pretty intense area of heat that develops over much of the heart, the central sections and northern sections of the United States and southern Canada. So the cold air that we've been experiencing in the northern sections of the United States and southern Canada will be a memory as we get into early July, the 4th of July, that period, because I think it's really going to start to heat up over a good chunk of the central and northern sections of the United States and southern Canada as we head into late June and July. All right, here's your drought index map now. This was released about 7 days ago, so this isn't the latest one, but still it's pretty close to being recent. But here we go. No surprise to anybody that Texas, New Mexico, and even into Louisiana, it's been dry, and they have an extreme and exceptional droughts in those areas. And I'm fearing that the drought is only going to intensify and deepen in these sections of the United States. Meanwhile, when you go from the upper Midwest and northern plains up here on east to basically the whole eastern half of the country, there's plenty of moisture for the most part in these areas, and too much moisture up north. And I think they're going to dry out here during the month of June over North Dakota and northern Minnesota. Meanwhile, that front that I had mentioned that's going to be straddling the heart of the U.S. from west to east across the country is going to be the focal point for more showers and storms, probably from the mid-Mississippi River Valley on east to the east coast. So yeah, even if you have plenty of moisture, you're going to get more in those sections of the United States. And I also think that southern Canada is going to dry out too. They've been wet up in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and they are certainly going to dry out the way it appears. All right, here's your 30-day temperature outlook. Cold up north, warm over the southern half of the United States, and in between we have a strong jet stream, and of course that's going to be the battleground for showers and thunderstorms the way it appears throughout June. And because of that, I'm expecting above normal precipitation from eastern Kansas, portions of Nebraska, and then Oklahoma on east and northeast through much of the eastern half of the United States, and that includes the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys. And yes, here's the real bad news. The drought deepens from New Mexico on east through Texas and then into the Gulf coastal states, especially Louisiana, where, we have some issues developing down in the southern sections of the U.S. All right, that's your 30-day forecast from Adisseo and Novak Weather. I appreciate you joining me. Take care. We will talk to you during early July.